Hey guys, JT here, and for those of you who have been listening to the show for a while, you're aware that we are trying to get on the Star Wars Celebration podcast stage this April in Orlando. And we think we know how to do that, and that's by getting a whole bunch of support from you guys online. We need likes and clicks and shares and downloads and all that. So go check us out on Facebook and Spreaker and Twitter and all that. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, and help us get to Star Wars Celebration to broadcast live this April in Orlando. Thanks for the support, guys, and may the Force be with you. Warning: the following podcast contains irreverent humor, exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off this podcast immediately, and may the Force be with you.
You stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
I have a kind of classy gas station attendant look.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Hi, I'm Carrie Fisher, and I'm an alcoholic.
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
I have to start by telling you that my entire life could be summed up in one phrase. And that is, if my life wasn't funny, it would just be true. And that is completely unacceptable.
You're tuned in to the Nerfherder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate, featuring your hosts, JT. I mean, I killed his mother. What's he supposed to do? Send him a postcard? I wish you wouldn't have done that. AJ.
I'm on Facebook, man. Hey, Mom, check me out.
Steve.
Where did Ewok number 5 walk off to after the end of episode 6? They want that crap explained to them, dude.
On this episode of the Nerfherder Council, we discuss the passing of Carrie Fisher, conduct an interview with Dark Vader of Star Wars heavy metal band Galactic Empire, and discuss our first year on the air.
This is the Nerfherder Council.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Nerfherder Council, and I was going to start by talking about our interview that we have tonight with the Star Wars metal band Galactic Empire, but I got to tell you, Steve, that intro was cool. That Carrie Fisher, excellent job on that.
I put a solid 4 hours of work into that because I lost the work originally and had to go back and make it a second time.
It's kind of like this entire episode of the show. We had to go back and make it a second time.
Right. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it sucks that by the time this episode comes out, we'll be a little behind the curve with the news of Carrie Fisher. But just as
we're against the grain. I mean, everybody else did their Carrie Fisher tributes last week, and so we're pretty much on par for what we do around here,
right? Well, ever since we missed 1 week's worth of episode, or we skipped an episode, I should say, for a week there, AJ. Now all of a sudden, the next thing we lose an entire show. So apparently, their computer was pissed at us for coming off schedule.
Yeah, very much so. We were double cursed anyway, because in the first fouled up take of this show, we had a nice good laugh at all of our production issues over the last year. And, well, wouldn't you know it, the entire show was eaten.
The entire show was production value gaff.
Wait, you want some of it?
Yeah, go for it.
And we're not going to talk 45 minutes about, man, we've been on air for a year. You know, an episode I actually kind of like because it was.
You know what?
We sound it goes to the Carrie Fisher tribute. We sound exactly like her in Return.
That's one of two things. That's either us doing our impersonation of Fulcrum from Rebels,
right?
Or it's, which guy was it? Was it 4LOM or one of the bounty hunters that talked all funny? One of the robots, I think, in Empire, had that goofy voice. So
I mean, I just,
one of those two.
All
things.
I heard was Boosh.
Right.
You have hibernation sickness.
See, so it's kind of our Carrie Fisher tribute, we just did a whole show like this.
35,000
audio will return in time.
50,000, no less.
Yoto.
That's what I was trying to think of. Yoto. So anyways,
we're gonna carry that. We're gonna act like we did it on purpose, and we decided at the last minute it wasn't fun to listen to.
I agree. So anyways, guys, tonight's show, we do have an interview that we're gonna play for you. We talked about a Star Wars heavy metal band some of you guys may have heard of if you've been on YouTube. They're called Galactic Empire, and check them out on YouTube. They have an album coming out on February 3rd on Rise Records, and we were fortunate enough to talk to the lead guitar player, Dark Vader. His actual name is Chris, and I would talk to him for a good long while. It's a pretty cool interview. And but first of all, we would be remiss if we didn't discuss the passing of Carrie Fisher a little bit, kind of a behind the scenes little moment when we did the last show that kind of screwed up. Literally less than 5 minutes before we turned the mics on to start recording, the news of Debbie Reynolds passing came across. So that we got that immediately before we started recording, which was really kind of, I mean, it was so surreal. We were like, you got to be kidding me. Really? Like her mother passed within a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, I wanted to bring something a little different to the table because obviously, the Carrie Fisher tributes are out there and everyone's given their opinion. And one opinion that I had that I have not seen yet is I think what I take away most from Carrie Fisher personally, obviously I don't have the female perspective to do the whole, she was one of the very first strong female role models and all that. For me, Han Solo was an absolute scene stealer and everything, that Star Wars that he's been in. And I don't think anybody but Carrie Fisher could have pulled off that Leia character and made Leia not only an equal, but a more powerful character than Han Solo. And I think that really is a testament to her character and her acting ability and, her chops in general to be able to stand toe to toe with someone as dominant on the screen as Han Solo.
Yeah. She was only 19 when the first movie was filmed.
Yep. And Harrison Ford was 33.
Right. So you take an actress that young and for her to be able to hold her own dramatically with a male lead like that, who had, I don't know if he probably actually didn't have more acting experience than she did, but he had the experience of age in general to have more gravitas on screen. Her being Hollywood royalty, being raised by Debbie Reynolds in a Hollywood family, I think that's what allowed her to be comfortable enough on set to hold her own like that and not wilt into the background.
Mm-hmm. If you watch the Empire of Dreams documentary where they have other audition footage of other actresses that were trying out for the part of Leia, you watch it and there's no way that any of those other actresses, they're fine actresses, but there's no way they wouldn't have been just stomped all over by Han on screen. Same dialogue, same costuming, everything. They would have just been chewed up and spit out.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way she played the character because she was so thoroughly unimpressed with Luke and Han. These two guys are coming in fighting the entire Empire just to get to her. And her first reaction is, well, you kind of suck.
Yeah, right.
like how do you look at your rescuers and be like, I am not impressed by you at all?
Yeah, well, let's get out of here and I'll help lead you. I'm the one that got caught, but I'm going to help you guys get out of here.
Yeah, this is some rescue.
Yeah, right. And I just picture lines like "into the garbage chute, flyboy." I mean, anybody else would be like "into the garbage chute," and it's just you're like, why am I following that? How are you a princess, man? Come on. So. I just, it's always struck me how phenomenal of an acting job it really was by Carrie Fisher to stand up toe to toe with Harrison Ford and Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
So, and another thing that I found interesting that I did not know, and this has been documented a lot, since she passed, but the fact that she rewrote dialogue for a lot of Hollywood scripts. She was like a dialogue doctor, and she did it for Star Wars. Steve. Wasn't it Peter Mayhew that he posted those script pages from Empire
last year, or the year before or something? He started every day he was posting pictures of the original script on his social media.
I think it was recently he reposted some, or someone did. I can't say for sure if it was Peter Mayhew, but anyway, it was a script page from when they were talking about going to Bespin in the Falcon, like, oh, here we go. Lando system. And it's the actual dialogue sheet it's the actual script sheet, but there's a bunch of red pen and stuff crossed out and new lines put in. And the new lines are what ended up in the movie. And it's her handwritten rewrite. She looked at it and went, no, this, no, change this. And every single change on the page is exactly what ended up on the screen.
Wow.
Yeah. So she apparently, and she did this for a ton of movies, and I never knew.
Yeah. I didn't know she was a script doctor like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was fascinating. And I really wasn't aware of how much she really did kind of behind the scenes in Hollywood and how much more there was to her career. I mean, obviously as a Star Wars fan, we just kind of think of her as, as Princess Leia, but I was not aware of just how much that she did outside of the acting world.
I get it though. With all of her speaking engagements that she's done and, trying to make sense of her tweets and interviews, like clearly
Right.
she's operating on some sort of different creative level where that's the sort of like obsessive creative insight that you need to come up with snappy dialogue to really dig inside a character for maybe 2 lines of things to say.
Yeah, definitely. And it sucks to me that she's gone, because we've talked before on the show about how much we appreciate the actors and actresses that are in Star Wars that get into it like we do and involve us as fans and are really just they immerse themselves in the whole experience so we can kind of be a little closer to the whole thing. And she was definitely one of those. I mean, you can go, for any of you guys who haven't done this, you can go on YouTube and find her entire hour-long panels from the last couple celebrations, and they're hour-long interviews with her, and they're just hilarious. I mean, she's crazy. I remember watching her on the red carpet with Oscar Isaac from Force Awakens last year when they streamed the premiere, and I swear one, if not both of them, was drunk. They were goofy, and it got vulgar at one point, and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, part of the audio I pulled for the intros from some, like, God knows when it was. It was almost like an HBO hour, like it's just her on stage with a crowd in front of her. And I'm like, I've never seen this before. And I sat down, I started trying to pull audio, and I'm like, wow, I've never watched this. I sat down, I'm watching the whole thing on YouTube, finding, another reason why it probably took me 4, 5, 6 hours to make that intro.
Well, that's called show research. That's just work. That's
good show prep.
Good prep.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
But yeah,
it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it, Steve.
Exactly.
Right. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen those, they're excellent viewing and listening. So definitely check those out. And I actually have that didn't happen to me personally, but one of my very closest friends actually ran into her at a gas station. It wasn't at Celebration, but it was at some kind of con. And a musician buddy of mine I've been playing with for 20 years, a guy named Don, he and one of his friends were there, and they were just at the gas station getting snacks and stuff. And they look up, and there's Carrie Fisher. And they just asked her, like, hey, we know it's kind of random and you probably are busy, but can we get a picture or something? And she was like, oh, yeah. And they said that she was super cool. So just running into random fans at like a Shell, she was awesome and just totally embraced, that people love her for what she did on screen. And, it's just sad because she really was like one of the very best ambassadors for Star Wars. And now she's gone. And it, that's just, it's so sad that kind of person that, really allowed us to get close to the saga off the screen. We're not going to get to enjoy that from her anymore.
And her fiery spirit. I mean, as much as I love the new actors and actresses that they're casting, and they're great ambassadors for the brand, the fact that Carrie Fisher had no compunction about saying whatever was on her mind, the fact that when she got up on stage and there was a microphone in front of her, I'm sure representatives from Lucasfilm and now Disney just kind of like covered their ears and hoped for the best.
Yeah.
I mean, she would just say anything. It was great. You never knew
Right?
what was going to come out of her mouth.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to miss her, as everybody else does. So, we didn't want to dwell on it too long because it's, been done to death at this point, being a couple weeks removed now, but, we did want to, pass along, our thoughts on it and everything. But tonight's show, the bulk of it, which we'll get to here in a second, there again is a Star Wars heavy metal band called Galactic Empire, and they have an album coming out on Rise Records on February 3rd. You can get it at all digital retailers and stuff like that. They have a Facebook page where all their information's at, where you can get their merch, their album, information about them and all that kind of stuff. A
lot of nice pre-order stuff.
Yeah, it's great looking stuff. They've got a couple videos on YouTube, which we talk about in the interview. So if you want to go check that out. But yeah, we talked to the lead guitar player, Dark Vader. His name is Chris. And they are literally packing up their trailer to go on a 3-date U.S. mini tour. They leave tomorrow. Their first date's actually here in Cleveland, and I have to miss it because I have a gig of my own. So that sucks. But they'll be in Cleveland tomorrow, and then they're hitting Pittsburgh and New York City. And then after that, they're actually going over to England. They're playing the UK for 16 straight days. So we did a really cool interview with Dark Vader. So here it is. Dark Vader joining the Nerfherder Council for a little, Star Wars and music nerd talk. So check it out. All right, everybody. Live with us right now, we have Lord Vader himself, the lead guitar player of the phenomenal Star Wars metal band Galactic Empire. Are we allowed to use your real name, Lord Vader, or are we just going with Lord Vader?
Go for it. I mean, I'm not going to be doing this thing in character. It's too hard to do off the cuff.
Nice. So we do have Chris, the lead guitar player, goes as Lord Vader for Galactic Empire. Thanks for coming on with us, man.
Yeah, no problem.
So I think the first question is, how did this all come together? I mean, you guys are obviously a Star Wars themed metal band. And, myself being a musician, I have tons of friends that are Star Wars nerds like me, but we never got together and decided, we like playing this stuff. Why don't we just write metal versions of the Star Wars themes? How did this whole thing come together?
So, okay, a couple of years ago, actually it was probably like 3 years ago, it doesn't matter, a little while ago, our drummer, his name's Grant McFarland, we call him Boba Fett. We have to use different names so that we don't get sued because the official story is that Darth Walt Disney has a powerful legal team whose wrath we do not wish to incur. But anyway, so Grant made a video of himself playing along to the original version of the Imperial March, the London Symphony Orchestra. And he wrote his drum parts to that or whatever and quantized everything and played along. And he got a decent amount of attention for that. He's been he's kind of I guess he's sort of a big drum name. He was in a band called This Is the Apocalypse for a while, and that's where he got his sort of whatever fame he might have in the drum community. But
I've heard
so
of him.
He did that, and then honestly, it was kind of just a once and done thing. And then like a couple years after that, he texted me. I was at work, and he was like, "Hey, like I have just this weird idea. Like how we did that drum video." What if we put guitars to it too? Like, I don't really know how we do that or, like how deep we go into it, but I just thought it might be cool. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that sounds awesome. Like I called dibs on guitar. And so I thought we were just going to kind of keep the symphony in there, and then we would use his drum tracks, and then I might like put some guitar stuff to it. And then it would just be kind of like, oh, this is cool or whatever. But we, and especially Grant, are like, not only Star Wars nerds, but we're crazy music nerds. So,
right.
He was like, well, I feel like if we're putting guitars to it, like we should just go all in and like do all of the parts in the orchestra instead of like, mimicking some of them or like trying to write our own stuff. Like, I feel like people like the actual songs. So like, let's just remake the actual songs. And I mean, long story short, it ended up snowballing, and now we have a 12-song album. That's got, I mean, pretty much all of the major memorable themes from the Star Wars movies are all were meticulously dissected and rearranged to be played on guitars. So I mean, at any given point, there's probably like 50 guitar tracks going on or something like that on the record, just because it's literally every section of the orchestra is being imitated on a guitar. Grant is he has the good fortune of having perfect pitch, and he's a total nerd with that kind of stuff. So he, at least for the first couple of songs, literally just sat there and listened for the different parts and then sort of figured it out on guitar and like recorded it piece by piece for the demos. I think he got like MIDI and actual like scores and stuff like that, so it'd be a little bit easier going forward after that. But yeah, everything that is played by the orchestra is played on guitars, and then we have the bass doing some of it as well, and then he wrote his own drum parts. So that's the gist of it. I mean, it was just something where we were like, hey, this might be cool, and then it got way out of hand, and then we made a music video. it all just kind of spiraled from there. We never really expected to do anywhere near what we were doing with it.
Right.
So you mentioned, by the way, this is AJ. Sorry, second host.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you went through and didn't just make rock versions of these songs. You actually went through and replicated every single part. How do you take that kind of a show on the road?
So we have 3 guitar players, so all of the main stuff is covered. Like I do most of the main lead stuff, so like the main melodies and things like that, the memorable stuff is what I do. CJ is actually the best guitar player in the band because the supporting lead stuff is ridiculous. It's all of the crazy fast violin and flute runs and stuff.
Yep.
And so he does all that stuff, and then Mike handles the rhythm stuff. So, all of the lower stuff, and the bass and the rhythm guitar usually match up most of the time. So it's really just a matter of when we figured out who was going to play what, in terms of breaking down God knows how many different guitar tracks are on the record. It was, okay, well, this is the main part, but then the melody switches to this guy over here. And, we just kind of had to figure out what parts seemed physically close to one another. Grant is the one that takes all the credit for that. He is the one that figured out who was going to play what and everything like that. So, it was definitely not an easy process. We do have a decent amount of stuff that's still playing through the PA, which I know some people frown upon, and I usually would too if I was in an original band with 2 guitar players. But this is something where we're playing the music that was written for an entire orchestra, and kind of the reason that people are digging it is because it's the original songs just played in a rock or metal format. So we want to. We're not trying to be the band that does all this crazy stuff. We want to bring that music to people that want to hear it.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to change anything up or keep it real, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're playing what we're able to play. Everything else is going through the PA. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, totally. Now a question that I had is, as I cough into the mic, now, if I read correctly, you guys did the original few songs on your own, and then didn't you do a Kickstarter or GoFundMe of some kind to try and finance an album? And
the album was not part of what was being financed.
Okay.
When the Kickstarter was launched and I saw the title for it that was Galactic Empire album and tour, I was like, we shouldn't say it's for the album because it's not, but it had already been launched, so there was nothing I could do about it.
Okay.
So Grant and Carson own and operate a studio called Atrium Audio in Lancaster, which is where I am at the moment. And they have recorded a number of big people. August Burns Red is a big one.
Oh, yeah.
The last 3 or 4 records that ABR has done, they've done it with Grant and Carson here.
Wow.
So they have the whole facility at their disposal. So that's where everything was tracked. My parts, I have my own, kind of home studio thing going on. So I recorded most of my parts on my own and then, finished up a few things here. But yeah, so we were lucky, we didn't have to finance the recording side of things or have the record label finance the recording side of things. That does not by any means mean that we just got a bunch of money and, we just kind of did what we want with it. There's a lot more stuff that we did have to finance. The second music video that we did cost, I hope I'm allowed to release this detail, but cost somewhere around $10,000.
Wow.
To do the Imperial March music video. So, because of all the special effects and things like that going on, it's a very time consuming process. So, the videos and, the gear that we needed, in order to take the show on the road, that was the big thing. The Kickstarter, we raised $60,000. And I think probably 20 or 25 of that went into our live show.
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and I'm not saying that like, yes, money, you know what I mean? It's just I like this. There was certain things that we needed in order to present the show the way that we wanted to do it, and like. This isn't really because we released it on such a seemingly large scale. Like it wasn't just kind of a video in a basement. It was full scale production value. I mean, the first music video and the second music video, we had full, movie crew, like a 20 or 30 man crew with, moving stuff. I don't know what any of it is, but we were on a green screen and like we couldn't move for hours at a time, and interns are feeding us pizza, and you know what I mean? So like we set a high standard of production value for our stuff, and we didn't want this to be, oh, these guys made this funny music video and then now they're just this local baby band that is trying to play shows, because it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? So we wanted to have the light show and all of the best gear that we needed, and to have everything go right. Yeah. So that's really what the Kickstarter was for, was to make us mobile. Okay. And to pay back some of the video expenses that we had incurred. Yeah.
I mean, as a musician myself, I saw the videos and I knew, I was like, damn, this is some money. This isn't just screwing around like with somebody's GoPro or webcam or something. I mean, it really wasn't, man. I mean, the first music video. And obviously, like, that was before anyone knew who we were. That was the thing that we debuted with. And I mean, the day of. Like I said, we didn't expect any of this to go beyond like a single song, like us just messing around in the studio. So when we were walking in to shoot the first music video, before we even saw the inside of the soundstage, which is a giant, I mean, I don't even know how many square feet. It's a giant professional soundstage. It's like a warehouse that's all soundproof and insulated and whatever. So, we were walking in, and Grant and I just kind of looked at each other like, can you believe like what we're about to go do right now? Like, this is absurd. And like I said, I mean, huge, like full crew and everything like that. And it was extremely overwhelming. And I mean, so just the special effects alone. I mean, we had a 3D graphic artist like build the environments and then send them to the effects guy who would do all the shading and then the motion tracking and all the stuff. So it was like they were shooting a movie as well as like making a video game. So there's a lot of work that went into both of those videos. So, like I said, high production value. Yep. I got to tell you, as a fellow musician and Star Wars nerd, I'm very jealous. That's kick ass. Thanks, man. But
it sounds like you guys basically took the George Lucas approach to music videos. Like, he refused to be bound by a budget, and you guys did the same.
Yeah,
sort of. Yeah, and I mean, we were very lucky to have some friends with some things at their disposal that were able to make that happen. But that's the thing. We could have gone sort of, for lack of a better term, discount with it. And that's not necessarily, it's not implying that like anybody who can't afford or like doesn't have the resources to do that is like somehow lesser. It's just, we are super OCD about what we wanted to do. And we were like, if we're going to make this cool, we wanted to get 1 million views. That's what we wanted to get. We were like, we're going to release this on the day that The Force Awakens comes out, and we're going to get 1 million views on it. That's the goal. And so we're like, we're not going to get 1 million views if it's just us in some helmets in a on a static background. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just like idea after idea after idea, and then it ended up what it was. And now we're at like, I think we have like 10 million something total.
Yeah, so, it's huge.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger than we expected.
Right. So obviously, you guys are, for lack of a better term, a cover band. But right. I mean, really, so what you guys are doing, I mean, you're basically playing John Williams themes. How do you attract the attention of a record label and actually sign a record deal, especially the way the climate is in the music industry these days? Getting a deal of any kind is kind of, it's a little more difficult and certainly a lot different than it was many years ago. How did you achieve that doing the type of stuff that you're doing?
Right. Well, I mean, I won't give all of the credit to our musical abilities or anything like that. I mean, we have all been in the music industry for a long time, and we know some people that, have some sway in certain areas. So it was, it got in on its own merit, but at the same time, we knew the right people to get it to. So that was something we already had on our side. But at the same time, this at that time, you know, we released that first music video when The Force Awakens came out. The day that it came out, we released it at like 3 p.m. and that's when everyone was standing in line, you know, so people are foaming at the mouth for Star Wars stuff, and so it blew up. I mean, we got the first 8 or 9 we got the first million views in like 8 or 9 hours. So
holy crap,
that kind of exposure is sort of hard to ignore from a record label standpoint. And because Disney has taken over the Star Wars universe and they released this whole, you know, like there's going to be Star Wars movies going on like long after everyone on this committee is dead. You know what I mean? Like, so now that they've breathed new life into that, and, you know, there's a new Star Wars movie or Star Wars related movie that's going to be released every year for God knows how long. It's sort of got a built-in audience. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Even people who aren't like into metal or anything like that, you know, most people who aren't into metal are like, I just can't take the screaming. You know what I mean? So we don't have any screaming. You know what I mean? It's just Darth Vader playing a guitar. So it's really easily marketable. And that's, you know, that's the easiest thing that I can accredit it to from the record label perspective. It's just like there's the audience for this does not have to be obtained. We don't have to find the demographic. We don't have to figure out who likes it and who doesn't. It's like, hey, do you like Star Wars? Do you know the music from it? Probably. Here you go. Yeah. So it's a much different, like that's why we've been able to get to the level that we're at in a fairly short amount of time as opposed to a normal band, because we're not playing original music. We're not making our own image. We're ripping all of it off. You know what I mean? So,
right.
You know, we're using other people's things to our advantage.
Right.
So it's different. So, you know, I have been doing the local band grind for a long time. So anybody who might be listening who's in that, I don't want them to think like, well, I should just give up because they got like, you know, whatever their definition of famous is in like a week. It was a perfect storm. It's just a weird like fluke. So don't take us as your success story. We got lucky.
Cool.
So from going forward now, do you go and pick apart things like The Force Awakens and Rogue One and go through their soundtracks now to try to change everything up as you go forward, or you're just going to rely on the same thing, you know, and just let it run its course?
Well, that kind of remains to be seen. There's an option for column A and there's an option for column B. We'd like to have more stuff in the future. You know, we'd like to go through The Force Awakens and Rogue One and get some of the themes from the original, you know, saga that we hadn't touched on. That's always an option. The other thing about it though is that, you know, part of what makes this music so recognizable is that like generations of people know it already. So we can put out a second record and have everything from The Force Awakens and Rogue One on it or whatever, but I don't think it's going to have the same impact. You know what I mean?
So on a live show, if you notice that the crowd's starting to die, you just throw the Imperial March in and you bring them all back.
Kind of, you know what I mean? Like no one up until honestly, you know what? I don't even think 30 years from now that people are going to remember something specific from The Force Awakens. You know what I mean? In terms of from the music standpoint of it, they very well might. But you know, from my perspective, I just think a lot of the themes that were made, it was, you know, because of the time period that it was created in, is just there was a lot more originality back then, I think. You know what I mean? So obviously John Williams still does all the stuff, but it doesn't have the same effect, I don't think. You know, everyone's kind of used to the big theatrical scores in movies and stuff now. So even though I'm sure we'll do some more material in the future, you know, the main focus is probably always going to be on these songs, just because it's not really anything that's going to go out of style anytime soon. You know what I mean? We can just kind of show up and play a festival here or there and people will dig it.
Yeah. And especially with, like, I mean, these themes have been around for 30 years. I mean, they're so ingrained in people. I mean, like,
right.
we discussed on a previous episode, you know, we were talking strictly about the music of the things. And it's like, I mean, the soundtrack to episode 4, you can just listen to that soundtrack. And I think most people that are big Star Wars fans like we are, you can actually just listen to the soundtrack and you know where you're at in the movie, just because it was so definitive.
And that's something that I think even though, I mean, John Williams did the score for The Force Awakens, and I thought it was great. I listened to the soundtrack. I think it's fantastic. But at the same time, I mean, at bare minimum, it's going to take 30 years for people to have that kind of stuff ingrained. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like people haven't been watching The Force Awakens for decades yet. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's ever going to have that same impact.
Yeah.
I just don't think so. And, Rogue One, not to bash anybody, and I know it was kind of a spin-off movie and whatever, but I thought the soundtrack was kind of lazy.
We actually have that same opinion. That was like our only complaints were no opening crawl, and the soundtrack was, all right.
Yeah, and the one thing that I noticed, so the opening crawl didn't bother me but I think it didn't bother me because, one, it wasn't technically a Star Wars movie, it was a spin-off, and I read about it ahead of time. It was like, this is going to be the first one that doesn't have the opening crawl, so I was like, all right, like, I know what to expect. Plus, like, we know what's happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's like, the opening crawl comes up and it's like, remember that big round thing that killed a planet? Well, this is the story of how they stole the planet. Here we go. Right. But anyway, the one thing that I noticed is just sort of funny is all of the music that was played like I'm sure you guys noticed, it started to seem like it was going to be one of the memorable themes, and then it kind of trailed off, and it wasn't. They basically just took like the first 2 or 3 notes to like get us like, yeah. And then they like switched around the order of the other notes, and you're just like, oh.
Right. Like, here it comes. Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Like my biggest gripe with the music in general, or not even in general, specifically my biggest gripe with the music is the fact that this is the first video that Darth Vader has had a anywhere near prominent role in decades. And obviously, I mean, I'm a little biased. I dress up like him for shows, but when you see Vader on screen, I don't care who you are, you play the Imperial March. Like, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, though. Hold on, though. The Imperial March was written for Empire Strikes Back. In A New Hope, but Vader had his own theme, and that was
to Darth Vader. Now it's been attached to him. As soon as that theme appeared, every time Darth Vader showed up, or anytime a reference was made to Darth Vader or the Empire, you would in the background, boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like, especially the first time that you're seeing him and hearing James Earl Jones's voice and the whole thing, like, I feel like you need to have that theme playing, or at least something that, like, at least have it in the background or whatever. But like, they didn't do it, and then whatever, like, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But that was one thing where I was just kind of like, oh,
right.
Yeah, personally, I agree with you on that take. But I see where they were going with it, because Vader had a theme in A New Hope, and they decided to use that one in Rogue One instead. It's lesser known, but it's more chronologically accurate based on the soundtrack.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of Star Wars geeks that are hearing me like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, they did it right. Whatever.
Well, that's why you're perfect for our show, man. Yeah, we get that all the time.
I listen to Star Wars Oxygen. Rebel Force Radio puts it out, and David W. Collins is on there doing a whole bunch of analysis. And basically, the take is Michael Giacchino pretty much took so many minor cues from the New Hope soundtrack and built melodies around those that it actually it does tie in, but it's all the stuff that you don't even realize you've heard before, so it doesn't seem memorable.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, I picked up on most of the stuff. Like, I kind of understood the skeletons that he was working with, like, that he was building everything around. But like, none of the stuff, the original stuff grabs you. You know what I mean? It brings you further into whatever's happening, like the TIE fighter scene in A New Hope and things like that, like that, like that whole thing. It gets you stoked on it. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't really get that from any of the music in Rogue One. But again, I mean,
right.
That's just me. Like, I'm shouting into a void. There's no value to my opinion at all.
You're saying something critical of Star Wars. No one's going to listen to you.
Yeah. Right. Only us open-minded Star Wars fans do that.
Yeah, seriously.
So
branching into Plinkett territory.
Right. Don't get me started on that. The red letter media just needs to be in a bus crash, if you ask me. But anyway,
I disagree with most of the things they say, but I love their videos so much.
I hate trolling for trolling's sake, and the guy, like, he trolls everything, and I'm like, it's not funny, dude. Like, you're just being an a-hole to be an a-hole.
All I'm gonna say is the red letter media review of Rogue One I thought was hysterical, only because they were talking about how the characters were like kind of unmemorable, and I can agree with that to an extent. But the one guy, I don't know any of their names, but the one guy was referring to Cassian, the male, the main male role, whose name I had completely forgotten, I will admit. But he was referring to him, and he's like, I don't know that we needed to see so much of Guy McAccent, and that killed me. I thought that was the best possible nickname you could give that guy, because that's exactly what he was.
That's awesome. Well, getting back to your guys' record, kind of a two-part question here. Number one, do you have, you said there's 12 tracks on the record. Are there any kind of songs that would be kind of considered deep tracks? And did you guys touch on any themes from the prequels? Because I know the prequels are a very hot button issue in the Star Wars community. So, I mean,
especially given that all your costumes and characters are based around original trilogy.
The prequels are arguably good or bad. I will not give my opinion, though hopefully you can pick up from it via my tone of voice. We did touch on a few of the themes from the prequels, so I can give you the track list because we've released it already. Mm-hmm. So let me just pull it up on my phone here so that I don't get it wrong. So in order, we have the main theme, we have Imperial March, we have Duel of the Fates, so that's the first one.
Nice.
And that. Actually, I was just about to give something away from the show, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Then we have the Force theme. We have the Asteroid Field, Battle of the Heroes. Duel of the Fates and Battle of the Heroes are my two favorite songs, mainly because of the choir. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then Cantina Band, Ben's Death, TIE Fighter. So that's like one track. And then Across the Stars, so that's the third one. That's the last one from the prequels. We have Forest Battle, and then we have this is technically sort of a Frankenstein-ish thing. We have the Throne Room theme, and then we have the end credits from Empire. So it's not from A New Hope. So like it's not actually in succession like it was in the movies, but so that's, we technically have 11 songs because Throne Room and the end credit thing are within their own track. But I say 12 because they're also technically two different themes. So so that's the whole track listing.
That's a nice easy splice actually, because every film ends with the same fanfare as soon as the credits roll.
Right, exactly. And Grant, listened through everything from the original trilogy, and decided that Empire's end credits score seemed to be the most, kind of enticing and kind of kept everybody's attention. So we used that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that's the whole track listing. We did touch on stuff from the prequels because, you can talk about whether or not the prequels are good cinematically, but the music was still good. There's a couple of themes from the prequels. Unfortunately, I don't remember what the names of them are, but there's a couple of themes from the prequels that I would kind of like to touch on at some point too. So, we still got some options to work with.
That's awesome.
So speaking of track selections, how much of it do you go based on what you think is going to play, so to speak, like with the fans, and how much of it is just your own personal preference?
Well, Grant pretty much picked out all the songs. I think Grant and Carson probably did it, most of it. I'd say it's kind of a mix of both. I mean, they're obviously they're basing their opinion of like what's going to be recognizable. They're a little bit biased, but they're going based on like what would a big Star Wars fan, what would somebody who knows this music be into, and like what scenes are the most memorable and all that kind of stuff. But they're also going on, what seems like they had to think in terms of like, what if a metal band was playing this? Like, is this something that's interesting?
Okay.
So
yeah, I was wondering if that was a factor.
Those were the main driving forces behind it. They tried to keep the listener in mind, but they also tried to keep the players in mind.
Now, you guys are going on tour. So when does the record actually drop?
The record drops on February 3rd.
Okay, and where can everybody get that?
I think everywhere. I don't know. I know like iTunes and Spotify and all that different stuff, Amazon, whatever. I don't know about physical stuff, honestly. I think they're going to be releasing it in stores. I don't know. That might have been in the contract. I have no idea. I signed the contract. I don't know what was in it. But, I'm not sure what the details of the release are. We have pre-orders available, and you can find the link on our Facebook page. There's a bunch of different like cool pre-order bundles. We have like limited vinyl runs and stuff like that are going along with things. So, and like posters and all that kind of stuff. So we do have stuff available, and that's I think Merch Now is the service that's covering that, the pre-order stuff. And also, I think you can get the pre-orders on iTunes as well. But yeah, other than those, I'm not entirely sure
right.
all of the different places. But those are the main ones. So, like, I mean, there's not going to be too many. I don't think anyway that there's going to be more people going to like FYE or Best Buy than the people who are like getting it offline or going
right.
to iTunes or something.
Yeah. So where exactly are you guys hitting on the tour? Because I know these first 3 dates, like tomorrow night is going to be in Cleveland on January 5th. And then you've got Pittsburgh and New York City. Now, before we started talking, you said that you actually, this whole thing started kind of with like a European tour, like over in England. So where all are you guys hitting? Are you doing more dates in America? Like exactly where all are you guys going to take this?
So right now, these 3 dates coming up are the only ones that we have announced for the US. There's a couple more in the works. There's one that's been confirmed, but I don't think it's been announced, so I don't want to give anything away. Those are a little later in the year. Other than that, everything's kind of TBD for that. Grant and Carson have some studio projects. I actually have a child that's coming in April, so like we're going to take some time off for that to let ourselves have some breathing room. But yeah, the UK tour was actually the first set of shows that we ever booked. It was supposed to be in December. Anyone that was following our Facebook page relatively closely would probably have noticed that. It was supposed to be in December. When the album release date got finalized, we moved it to February. So yeah, it's not a European tour. It's just in the UK, which seems kind of crazy. I mean, like we're doing 16 straight days on that one island. So we are really hitting that island.
Wow.
So, and I mean, we're excited about it. I've never been to England. Grant's done some touring and stuff, with This is the Apocalypse. So he's been over there, but I haven't. So I'm excited to go anywhere and everywhere. But yeah, it's just going to be in the UK. I'm not going to list all the dates simply because I don't remember all of them. I can pull up the list, but I don't. I feel like I shouldn't say any of the names without the right accent. So,
right.
But yeah, so it's going to be us, and then Sithu A is going to be playing with us. He's kind of an instrumental sort of virtuoso, kind of like Intervals-esque sort of dude.
Okay.
Really, really good guitar player, pretty well known over there. I think he's in Ireland or Scotland. So he's a little bit more local to the area. So, people over there he'll have more fans over there or people who know who he is over there than he would over here. So it'll be a good mix. And his first name is Sithu, so it's Sithu. So we get the privilege of calling him Sith Lord A through the whole tour. So it works out pretty well.
Now, as a personal question, I have to ask. You said you have a kid coming in April. What were you thinking? Celebrations in April, man. You should have like waited a month or two to get
I was thinking I just got married and I was on my honeymoon and I wasn't going to worry about the repercussions of my decisions.
All right.
So
as soon as you said April, we all looked at each other and went, but that's celebration, man. Like, so
yeah,
it's all right, man.
I will not be in attendance, unfortunately. But
it's all right. My son will be 1 in April, so I did the same thing last year.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. See.
So you guys going to the UK is kind of like you going out to the Outer Rim sieges. You need to be called back to Coruscant.
I mean, I wouldn't really call the UK the Outer Rim. If we were doing Outer Rim, I would probably say like New Zealand or like
exactly,
Thailand. You know what I mean?
Well, you could
Maybe
just take your newborn 2 celebration. That would work too. Just dress him up as Luke from episode 3, and you're all set.
That's really what you want to do. You want to take a baby to a party. That's always sick.
Hey, go for it. Just walk around. Everyone's like, oh, what's his name? Go Uba. Ooba. Just do that. So I did
something tells me the wife's not going to be comfortable bringing the baby on a plane within a week of its birth. So
right, expose it to germs. It strengthens the immune system.
Yeah.
So speaking of legal stuff, I know you mentioned this before. I noticed on the Facebook page that the costumes that you guys are wearing are a little different in those individual pictures that you posted of yourselves. Now, is that what you're going to be wearing on stage? And are you is there a legal thing that you've already been contacted by Lucasfilm or Disney or something about, or how
they are going to be the costumes that we'll be wearing. We also the video that we released a video for the throne room and end credits single. Okay. So we did a little studio playthrough for that. It wasn't like the high production value, but that was the first video with the new costumes. We have not been contacted. The costumes are to prevent us from being contacted. When we first launched the project and we got all the attention, we were in the original costumes. We have the music license. That's all taken care of. The intellectual property is very difficult to obtain licenses for, especially since Disney has taken over. I'm sure you guys remember all the Family Guy, Star Wars parodies and things like that. Those were all done while Lucas still owned everything. From what I understand, he was a lot more lenient and a lot easier to get a hold of. So it's like someone's like, hey, I want to do this funny thing involving Star Wars. And he's like, yeah, sure, just give me credit. You know what I mean? So but with Disney, as soon as Disney took over, like I'm pretty sure Family Guy wanted to do stuff on the prequels and they were like, nope, no more. So that's at least what I heard through the grapevine. So, I mean, if Family Guy, if Seth MacFarlane is not able to bring that in, I seriously doubt we're going to be able to have any better luck. We tried, we tried to hit people up. We contacted people who we knew had relatives that worked in departments at Disney to see if they could get us in with anywhere. And like a lot of people, it's almost like you were like asking where to find Voldemort. Like people would just kind of be like, oh no, I don't know anything about that. I don't want to talk. We can't talk about the Star Wars stuff. That's like, you know what I mean? We had a few leads that we thought might pan out, and we always just ended up back at this same boilerplate website that you can find if you do a Google search, that it's just like, hey, Mr. Lucas, can I have permission to dress as Darth Vader? And it's an automated response of like, no. You know what I mean? So that's the furthest we've been able to get. We haven't been able to get in contact with anybody aside from that, or anybody that really has any pull or sway in that department. So we figured, the first couple of videos, we didn't make any money on them because we couldn't. We were using intellectual property that wasn't ours. Yeah. So we didn't really worry about that. But now we're doing shows and we're obviously going to be making money to play these shows and things. So we didn't want to be profiting on infringed material. So we had an artist, his name was James Hayball. He's from the UK. He designed all of the new costumes, and the names are different. So I'm not Darth Vader, I'm Dark, D-A-R-K, Vader. There's Boba Fett. It's funny, we rewrite Boba Fett a lot, and we have so many kids who are like, it's Boba Fett. Like, you guys aren't even Star Wars fans. It's like, oh my God. You know what I mean? It's like, he's the drummer. Boba Fett plus drum set equals Boba Fett. Like, think for a second before you start yelling at us.
Right.
But I obviously I'm not that aggressive. I'll be like, puns, young one, puns. And then base commander for base player. You know what I mean? Awesome. Things like that. So,
the names are great.
Yeah, so like Red Guard is probably the most boring one because we couldn't say Imperial Guard or Royal Guard. It's just, well, he's red and he's the guard, so call him Red Guard. Personally, my vote was for Red Idiot. I wanted that to be his name just because we play the character sort of dumb in a couple of the music videos and stuff. So, and I like to rag on the dude who wears the costume. So I pushed real hard for Red Idiot, but the other guys didn't
was it Red Guard? Red Guard was the one that was like, Emperor, like, can I just get a quick selfie? Like, leave us.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's funny. The voice for that, the guy who did the voiceover for that is actually the dude who was wearing the Chewie costume in that video. So it wasn't even the voice of the dude in the costume, but yeah, that's the one.
Very cool. AJ, you had a question, you said?
Yeah. So you said you already altered the costumes to stay out of legal trouble. Now I actually have a 501st tattoo because I'm actually approved with an ARC Trooper costume from the Clone Wars series.
Oh, awesome.
And having that little bit of costuming experience, I know that those costumes may look good, but they're terrible to wear. So what other alterations did you have to make to be able to actually play music live in these things for hours at a time?
Yeah, well, I'm actually glad you brought that up because this is like the first interview that I've done where that wasn't the first thing that I decided to talk about. So yeah, the original videos when they came out, a lot of people were like, "How are you even playing in gloves?" Because apparently nobody knows that music videos are done with pre-recorded audio. We do not actually play in gloves. That is physically impossible. It can't be done. So we made jokes about, we use the Force and the dark side is a pathway to blah blah blah, but like we can't actually play in the gloves. So. The original costumes, and a lot of people are sort of bummed that we don't have the original costumes now for the tour and stuff. And so I sort of broke character and I gave an explanation of like these costumes, like even if we had permission to use them, they are very heavy, they're very cumbersome, they're very hot. The Darth Vader bodysuit, like not all the layers, just the bodysuit, that like quilted like knapsack that you have to wear is like it's wool on the inside of it, man. Those videos, we were doing it for like 6 or 8 hours straight in a day, like wearing that thing, and you can't move very easily, you can't sit down. And we didn't have 501st level costumes. We had like the level below that. We had like the higher end like Ruby's costumes that you can buy on like Amazon and stuff. They're still fairly expensive, but they're not thousands of dollars. Like when you get like the movie accurate Vader suit, it's like $6,000. We're not gonna pay that. But yeah, so they were very difficult to move in and see in, and they fall apart. I mean, they're expensive Halloween costumes. They're meant to be worn for an hour or two, walking your kid around the block while he gets candy, and then you take it off and you never wear it again. That's what it's supposed to be. We wore it for 8 hours straight twice. So the toll that it takes on the fabric and all that kind of stuff, and I mean a lot of stuff is held together with just like kind of like buckles and things like that. And I'm a bigger dude, and I was even bigger when we did I was like pushing 300 pounds when we did the first couple of videos. So, we had the biggest possible size option for that costume, and it still didn't fit me quite right. So, a lot of stuff was like falling off and whatever, although it was funny when they kept having the interns come and put my cod piece back on. But yeah, so like, they're very difficult to wear. So even if we had gotten permission, we would have had to do some serious alterations to the costumes. We might have even had to buy new ones and redo them and all that kind of stuff. So Carson, our bass player, actually built all of the new costumes himself. So he's one of those guys that just kind of decides he wants to do something and suddenly he knows how. So the helmets are made out of, the helmets and armor things are kind of made out of this lightweight foam that I guess is used by a lot of cosplay people. I don't know anything about it. They call it Plasti Dip. So I don't know. There might be people who know what that means. But yeah, it's all just really lightweight foam, and then he painted it. And I mean, we got the designs from James Hayball, like I said, and then we had a 3D artist. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but we had a 3D artist do the renderings of them and send them over to Carson. And then he created the molds and all the stuff and made it all in his house. And almost lost his mind doing it. I mean, it's been like months and months that he's been slaving away at this stuff. But they turned out great, and they're a lot lighter, and Carson's mom actually sewed together my bodysuit and like made that a whole thing. And so, they're not necessarily up to code or up to standard as some of the, the high end movie authentic costumes or whatever, but they're not supposed to be, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be able to move and stuff, and it's still difficult. I mean, I don't know how many people listening play guitar, but you don't realize how much of your peripheral vision you use when you play guitar. Like, you think you might just be looking at wherever your hand is, but if you're about to go anywhere else on the fretboard, you're scoping it out in your peripheral vision. Like, you're looking for where it's going to be, and like your whole idea of where your hand is going to go and like how to play the song is all based around the fact that you have a full view of your fretboard. You don't have that in these costumes. I have no peripheral vision. If you see any of the videos from our first show, my chin is glued to my chest the entire time. And there's a lot of people who are like, you need to move around more. I'm like, you know what? encase your head in foam, take away your peripheral vision, put sunglasses on, and then try to move.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, we have the window tinting in the visor so that you can't see our eyes and stuff like that. So it's difficult, you know, but it's doable. So we've got it to a point where it's doable. There's still kinks that we're trying to work out. Red Guard has possibly the worst helmet situation. The actual visor that goes across, like horizontally where his eyes are supposed to be, if you look closely, is actually on his forehead. Wow. He has, between his two eyes, he has one whole one. So he has half of each eye looking through the vertical part of the visor. His nose is like smushed up against the front. And like when he's looking straight down at his fretboard, the way he has to have his helmet positioned, it actually looks like the guard is like looking up and to the left. So
at least it's a cool stage look, right?
Yeah, exactly. The way that I described it was like, guard seems a bit distracted. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're definitely, it's a challenge to plan them. I mean, this is easily the most musically, technically demanding music that any of us have ever taken on, because the mind of a composer is not the mind of a metal musician. This stuff was not written for these instruments, and it's really hard to wrap your head around. Nothing repeats. Even when you think it repeats, there's like one note that's different, or it's a different, you know, key or whatever. So it's very difficult. It's Mike Redguard describes it as the world's longest game of Simon. So you know, that paired with the fact that you're playing in these sort of relatively cumbersome costumes, you know, with limited vision and things like that, it's not easy. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, like, look at us, like we're able to overcome this. It's just hard. You know what I mean? So you know, anyone who comes to see the show, please forgive me if I hit some wrong notes or things like that. It's not easy to see.
It's live, man. You know, like I say, I'm a fellow musician, so that was one of my first thoughts when I saw the videos. I was like, when they do this live, this has to be impossible. Like this, I'm a huge Dream Theater fan, so you know, I'm familiar with doing music that complex and whatnot. You know, I've seen them live many times, and I can't imagine. I mean, like I say, that was one of the very first things I thought of. Was how are they doing this? Like, this has got to be a pain in the ass. Like, I'm surprised Redguard's like, all right, we're doing everything. I'm doing everything in root notes of E, A, and D. So just work around that. I'm playing 3 open notes.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the biggest thing. Like I said, the mind of a classical composer is nothing like the mind of a metal musician. Metal musicians take a lot of influence from classical music, whether they realize it or not, but the mindset is completely different. You know, I am by no means anywhere near as good of a player as John Petrucci, but at least the riffs that John Petrucci is playing are written relative to the instrument that he's playing. And the songs that they compose are based around the instruments that are in that band and like what everyone knows that they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
The music that we are playing was not written for our instruments. It was written for a much larger outfit. And it was written by somebody who is a classically trained composer. So like some of the harmonies, like, I mean, if you just hear some of our parts isolated, they don't make any sense. Like they sound completely atonal. Like there's nothing that you would have ever thought to put in a song, but somehow this guy has the genius to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, like I said, the world's longest game assignment, it was really difficult to learn. It took us months to get this stuff under our belts, just to have the, you know, relative muscle memory of it. Because there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it from the perspective of somebody who's like, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm self-taught, but in terms of, you know, the kind of development of my chops and stuff like that was more or less me. So, you know, I grew up playing Metallica. You know what I mean? I grew up playing power chords and things like that. And I, you know, even the more complex, you know, my original band is a technical death metal band, but like we don't play anywhere near the weird kind of stuff that we do for this.
Right.
So, you know, it's a totally different ball game.
Now, are you like stage presence wise, like you as a player, I know this is more of a musician question, but like with your original band, are you one of those guys that likes to like headbang and move around and kind of like be active on stage? Cause I'm one of those. And if I was playing Star Wars stuff, I don't know how I would train myself to stand still.
I was that guy. I used to have hair like down below my elbows a few years ago. After I cut it, I feel really stupid headbanging. I do it a little bit now because I've got, you know, the stupid, like the trendy pompadour thing going on. So I've got some longer hair up top that I can work with.
Right.
So I do it a little bit, but I don't do a whole lot of movement. Aesthetically, I get, when I'm not playing the Star Wars stuff, when I'm playing in my other band, I get compared a lot to Dusty from BT Bam, because he's just kind of like a statue on stage because he's playing technical stuff, and he's got short hair, so he's not going to be whipping his head around because it doesn't really make any sense. And I also play PRS, so and I wear flannels on stage, so like I just kind of happen to look like the dude a little bit.
Nice.
But so I used to be the guy that moved around a lot, and like my bandmates now are kind of like, you should move again, and I'm like, all right, and like so I'm starting to kind of get back into it again and figure it out, but I've been on both ends of it. I've been in the windmilling and the going crazy and all that kind of stuff, and then I've been totally stagnant. And now I'm, almost no vision, and my chin taped to my chest, and so,
right.
I've been all over the place with the stage presence thing.
That's awesome. Well, I know we had you for a good 45 minutes or more, so we'll let you get going because I know you guys have a trailer to pack up. But
I've just heard. I'm pretty sure I just heard the metal doors open, so I think I should probably get back down there and help everybody.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to get out? Make sure the people know.
I mean, we pretty much covered it all, but just quick recap, anyone in Ohio or Western PA or in New York, we're doing Cleveland, Pittsburgh, New York the next 3 days straight. If there's any international listeners, we are playing the UK for 16 straight days, February 1st through the 16th. Mostly England. We have some stuff in Scotland. And then the album drops on February 3rd. So we have pre-orders up. It's all on iTunes. We have, pre-order bundles and things like that. You can find everything that you need to know about us. You can find on our Facebook page somewhere. And if you need to know anything, just message us. We're not above answering Facebook messages. So
hey, that's how I contacted you. So
we'll respond to most things that come through, and just be nice, and we'll be nice. We might respond in character. We might not. It just depends on how tired I am.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, thanks for your time, and have a great tour. And if you could, with a very quick opinion, give us your thoughts on Rogue One.
Rogue One, I thought it was what it needed to be. That's pretty much all I can say. It was the story that we didn't totally need, but it was interesting to see. Could have been better, could have been worse. It was like, I enjoyed it. I would recommend going to see it. There's an awesome scene with Darth Vader. That's really all I cared about. So take it or leave it.
Awesome. All right, Chris, Lord Vader, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on the Nerfherder Council, man. We appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. So there you have it. That's our interview with Dark Vader from Galactic Empire. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I have to say, I am very proud of myself because being a fellow musician and a fellow metalhead, I could have talked to that guy for another couple hours and it would have been all stuff. Hey, man, what kind of amp do you play through? Like, do you guys have triggers? Like, what are you doing? Total music nerd stuff that none of you would have any interest in. So I asked one music nerd question, really, and the rest of it, we stayed on track with their record and their tour and everything and how they came about. So
speaking of that, AJ and I were plotting on you during the interview. We were texting earlier and we took Vegas bets, the over under on how many times you were going to mention that you were in a band yourself. And he said 5, I said 3, or no, you said 5, I said 4.
Yeah, so we decided to set the betting line at 4.5 over under.
So the final tally was, if you count,
I counted 5.
Yeah, if you count the interview itself, it's 5. It went up to 8 if you count the banter before the actual interview.
It only counts what was recorded, damn it.
So AJ, you win.
Look, man, we were coming from a common frame of reference. So that was the first thing I texted AJ this morning. I was just like, hey, I'm like, over under on how many times your brother brings up being a musician to him tonight. It's a common frame of reference, and it's things that I know about, so that it doesn't sound like an ignorant question. And it can potentially keep the answer from going too long, because I've having run a music magazine before, I know that some people, when they think they're talking to a non-musical crowd, they'll extend a short answer to a very long one trying to make sure the non-musician understands what they're talking about.
I was going to go with a bonus bet and have say how many times he was going to mention the band name, and I didn't go for it, and I'm glad because it would have been 0. So I'm very proud of you on that.
He doesn't care about my band, man. What the hell? But
hey, you never know. He might have been like, "Hey, man, what's your name of your band there?"
I expected none of that, and I got none of that. So I was right today as well. But yeah, that I'm definitely buying that record because I knew.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why I was looking at the pre-orders.
Yeah, right.
While he was talking.
Right. You can bet you're going to catch me at Celebration in a Galactic Empire T-shirt. That's for sure. But yeah, I actually didn't know that they redid every single piece of the orchestra.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds very lush.
Yeah,
the recording
crazy.
does. The recording is incredibly lush, but I mean, because it's just a YouTube video, you know, I watched it on television and stuff, but I can't wait to go get the full thing and actually listen to it.
Honestly, with those YouTube videos, I didn't even think to look that deep into the music. I was just kind of enjoying what was going on, and now I'm gonna have to go back and watch the video and just sit there and go
listen.
Wow, holy crap! There's 50 tracks underneath this thing.
And I'm excited with the track listing. I mean, there was some awesome stuff he mentioned a couple of things he mentioned. I was like, yeah, I want to hear that done. Like this style, man.
Duel is going to sound awesome.
Yep. The asteroid feel is going to be great.
That was the one that stood out to me.
I was like,
really, Duel was the first one to jump out, but yeah, the asteroid field, that one's got to be pretty insane too.
Yeah. I'm glad that they didn't shy away from the prequels, because as you were trying to get at, AJ, you know, their costumes are original trilogy stuff. So you might assume that they're not going for any prequel stuff, but you know, it sounded like he said he's not a fan of the prequel films, but he likes the music. And so they brought some themes from that, which is awesome.
Yeah. Plus they also did a good job of balancing it out, because yes, the original trilogy stuff is the low hanging fruit. That's what everybody recognizes, but the prequels do have some really great soundtracks themselves. They're not as recognized because the films aren't held in as high a regard, but that's not to say that the music isn't as good.
Man, could you imagine something like the water opera from episode 3 done metal? You put that on a 7-string, you could make that thing heavy.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. We might have just given him an idea. It's like, album number 2, 7 strings, water opera, get on it.
That's what I was kind of asking with the album tracks question, because maybe some tracks are not as well known, but they might lend themselves to a metal arrangement better.
Yeah.
And that could be, I'm wondering when he said Across the Stars, I wonder if that's going to be like a ballad kind of arrangement, or if they're going to mix it up into more of a hard driving rock or thrash kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, this is just going to be super cool for me, because just the 2 songs that I saw on YouTube, I loved it. I was like, this is so badass. I mean, that's the kind of thing I was looking for our show intro music when we first started.
I was going to say,
over
speaking
a year
of which,
ago.
we totally didn't ask him if we could take that music for our intro.
Oh yeah. We need record label permission now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it actually got me thinking that, you know, it was the kind of thing that I was looking for our intro music over a year ago, which made me go, holy crap, we've been on the air for a year. It's been a year, man. How did it get to be a year already?
First off, applaud the segue.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's what happens when you've been doing this for a year.
That's what you call sticking the landing. Very nice.
I'm getting better at this. See, my wife thinks it's stupid that I listen to myself all the time, but I'm like, I am trying to improve. Okay.
11 months ago, it would have been, hey, we're just going to edit this and we're going to make it sound like the conversations went together.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, this is the kind of thing I was looking for our show intro. Hey, guess what? We've been on the air for a year. Okay, that was very clumsy. In fact, if I remember right, you actually called me out on a previous episode for crappy segues, because I actually said this was a segue or something like that.
Because you pointed it out afterwards.
No better way to break the fourth wall than to call out what you're doing. Didn't we just do that for a minute?
Yeah, right?
You landed this perfect segue, and then we just went for a minute on how it was a perfect segue in case anyone didn't notice.
And see, a year from now, we'll just skip past that stuff because we won't be proud of it anymore. It'll just be something that's part of the show. Right now, we're like, holy crap, we actually did that properly. What the hell is that?
Don't get too cocky, kid.
Yeah, great kid. Don't get cocky. But anyways, I can't believe it's been a year, but I've had to go back and listen to a whole bunch of our old stuff for our celebration application. And I'm not tooting our horn, but I do the show because I enjoy talking about Star Wars. So I have a fun time listening to our show myself just because I think it's fun. But I think a couple of our shows were actually really entertaining. I mean, the Return to the Jedi episode was really funny with our cousin Chris on there. And the whole, I still feel bad about the end part with David Prowse, but I can't stop laughing at it. It's like, I can't.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I just can't stop laughing at that. I just can't. But I mean, our first Rogue One, you know, we talked about the reshoots. That was a good episode, and that one, I was surprised at how much we got right. That the stuff we talked about, that actually ended up in the movie. I was like, what the hell? It's like,
it's on more than one occasion we have come across these microphones and gone, hey, you know, let's copyright that before they jump on it because we're giving them ideas. Maybe.
Maybe of the 130 listens an episode, we're getting like 6 of them are from Lucasfilm employees with a notepad and a pen.
Yeah, I'll have to check the Google Analytics and see how many of these listens are coming from the Bay Area.
They just got the house bugged like the people in Stranger Things, and they're just taking all of our ideas from us while we're podcasting.
Yeah, when's the last time you checked out this X-Wing above our recording table here? I don't know. They could hide any number of microphones up in there.
Stranger Things, it's all in the lights. I'm going to have to go through here.
Oh, yeah. If they start flickering, we'll know what's up.
Yeah.
They would put them in the X-Wing probably because we wouldn't look there because we don't want to touch it and break it because it's the most sacred item and echo base to the show. So, but yeah, I mean, I thought for not knowing anything about podcasting, it actually was a pretty good year. You know, there was a lot of stupidity, but you know, it wasn't completely a waste of time. So,
yeah, you know? I honestly think we got a leg to stand on for Celebration. Not to sound, you know, bitter or anything, but you know, a lot of, not that it's a bad thing, a lot of Star Wars podcasts look at Rebel Force Radio and they try to mimic it.
Yeah.
And we are the complete opposite side of the coin of that thing. So, you know, Celebration can go through and they can bring 20 people in or 20 different shows in, and you can have the same show 20 times if you want. Or you can have a couple of idiots up on the stage that found a way to make Benny Hill and Rogue One go together and flow through a conversation,
right?
And almost make it enjoyable to listen to.
I give all those shows a lot of credit though, because it's hard to come up with something original because Rebel Force Radio is, I mean, it's the show. I mean, it's just the show. And let's be honest, it when there's news coming out all the time about Star Wars, that's what people want to talk about. And that's what people without a show really want to hear. So we're kind of, you know, pardon the phrase here, but pissing into the wind, as it were, like by trying to avoid doing that, because it's like, well, does anybody want to hear our stupid ass opinions? Like,
and it actually gets tricky sometimes because, you know, when news breaks, the first thing you want to do is talk about the news.
Yep.
So yeah, like I could still go for another 6 hours on Rogue One. I have no problems just gushing about that movie or the book that was preceding it with Catalyst. But you know what? We already did our Rogue One show, so I'm going to shut the hell up about it, and we're going to move on to other topics.
Well, we'll touch on Rogue One again, I'm sure, because I have to go see it again, and there's other stuff. But
we have a year before the next movie comes out, so we could talk Rogue One a few more times.
Right.
I think we can shoehorn it in.
Right. I do have to tell you, Steve, you know, you saying that you think we have a good shot at Celebration, in listening back to the shows,
I say we have a leg to stand on. I didn't say we had a good shot.
I seriously, like, part of the application and what we're talking about for people.
If Rogue One and A New Hope taught us anything, it's that all you need is hope.
Well, we better have a lot of that, because I'm telling you, for people who don't know what we're talking about, Celebration, they have a podcasting stage, and you apply, and they pick, I don't know what it is, like 20, 30 podcasts to actually broadcast for an hour live from Celebration and do their show at Celebration. And part of the application is you have to give them links to your top 3 podcasts. So I'm the one that's trying to, you know, fill this thing out, and, you know, I'm trying to listen to these episodes and figure out which ones. And I'm like, okay, should I go based on how many people listen to it so that it looks like, oh, more people listen to it, you know? So I listen to those, but of course there's a crap right at the beginning that for a family-friendly convention like Celebration, you know, AJ's intro to the show, like, I love a good threesome. I'm like, oh boy, okay, well, maybe not that one. And then I go back to some older shows, and my intro is like, what is Luke and Leia the product of intergalactic rape? Like, I'm like, nope, not using that one. And then there's another one I picked where both the intros were fine, and then within 90 seconds of the show starting, I called somebody a douchebag and a dick, so that one's out the window. Like, so I think our show's fine, but then when you put on the hat of a producer of a family-friendly convention, maybe not. So
that's why I'm totally leaning more towards the fact that we're going to have to get a table and find a way to set up outside of the convention somehow.
Right. We'll be on the front steps.
There's got to be outlets on the outside of the building that we could plug into. There's got to be some way we can get it done out there.
We'll rent a gas generator, and you hear that in the background the whole time that we're talking.
We'll cover it in empty egg cartons and try to deaden the sound a little bit.
That'll be the only show that actually has like Star Wars music in the background, because we'll play like one of the soundtracks on our phone and hold it real close to one of the mics.
Hey, my girlfriend's got that Millennium Falcon Bluetooth speaker, so we could just use that. That'll be perfect.
True.
Yeah, honestly, I think we would make a killing outside of the convention. We get a couple of stickers, a couple more T-shirts, just people waiting in line to get in and being forced to listen to our drivel out there.
Guerrilla marketing campaign. I love it.
Awesome. That'd be awesome. That's how we gain listeners. Just do the podcast that way and just hand people promo material. And then everybody will be like, well, I have to listen to this because these guys are such complete morons.
J.J. Abrams bought pizza for everybody last year. All we need is pizza, probably beer, and then we're going to force feed this stuff down everybody's throats while they're waiting 6 hours to get into the convention hall.
That's an idea that I had, that it's like at the end, if we get picked at the end, I'm going to be like, I will have saved up enough money. I'll be like, look, you guys are awesome. Anybody who wants to go with me right now to the closest beer stand and grab a beer with me, I'm buying the first round. Like, so what Blabba had cookies, or what Blabba had cookies, and other people have like little goodies and stuff. I'm going to give our listeners alcohol. So, at like 11 o'clock in the morning, like, here's your breakfast, have some suds. By the way, how great would it be to set up our podcast in front of the line of people and just immediately start riffing on episode 1, how great it is. Just rile up hundreds of people at once.
Dude, one of the best things I remember listening to, like wanting to get into radio a million years ago, 1999, right when episode 1 came out.
Yeah.
I was going to say 98, but I knew that was wrong.
Sorry, I thought that was rhetorical.
Yeah.
99. The guys from Opie and Anthony sent people out with loudspeakers to the people that have been waiting outside for weeks, and started going over the loudspeaker about pretty much every hot point that happens during the movie. So these people wasted probably a month of their lives and had it ruined probably 3-4 hours before they were going to get into the theater. So yeah, riffing episode 1 and talking about how great it is, I think we could raise some eyebrows out there.
It'd be awesome is if we got way more people that were like, I agree, man, that movie is great. So like our episodes that have like 0 listens because we talk about, the Phantom Menace on here, we'll go to Celebration, and that'll be like the most popular topic.
God, can we get some like insider on episode 8 before Celebration and then just spew it in front of the crowd?
So we have it on good authority that Han Solo actually is not dead. And everyone's like, oh, God damn it. Like, it's just, or throw something fake out there.
Oh, yeah, just start making stuff up. There's going to be so many people out there. So there's bound to be a couple of people that are going to spread the rumors.
Kylo Ren is actually Rey's father. Rey is a clone, and she's older. But somehow Kylo Ren is her father. They're not brother and sister. You're looking for Rey's parentage. I can't believe it's Kylo Ren. And come up with this completely believable theory that combines like the Jango Fett cloning thing from episode 2. So you could define the age, how close they are in age, and like
Rey is actually Hux's twin.
that would be awesome.
Hey, they both got the British accent.
That's true.
Just saying.
And we could make playing card or trading cards of the sad Jordan Hux that we were passing around through text messages.
That was awesome. So do you think if we don't get picked for Celebration and we're walking around podcasting live, do you think like one of the Celebration officials would see us and like bust us?
I don't see that there's anything wrong with doing it.
I go with yes, and we put it out on the podcast anyways.
I gotta tell you, you would hear me on the phone like interviewing somebody and hear this. Sir, you can't do that. You can't record.
Just do not cuss, and we will put that thing on a podcast. I will drop it in a heartbeat.
It'll be going live. You'll hear me going, hold on a second. Yes, I can. And I'll start running. You hear me thump, 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 my phone thumping, and this guy behind me like, hey, get back here. Like it'll be actually like Celebration officials chasing me throughout the convention.
Well, I think the real
Periscope Live, John runs through the convention while getting kicked out by security.
we could just stop at Periscope Live. John runs.
Right. We'll have
John walks briskly to the exit door.
Can we get the speeder bike chase music under that?
Yeah, right.
Just fast motion the footage.
That would be so awesome.
Well, that would be the point in time where we need that Benny Hill music again.
Yeah, right. Everything's better with yakety sax. That's for sure.
I think the real miracle will be if we could actually broadcast from Celebration at all, because as you know, over the past year, anytime we try to take this show out of this basement, it leads to disaster.
Thankfully, when we did that ill-fated Trivial Pursuit night, just doing it on the phone with the Spreaker live recording app, but the audio was good enough if we're just going to randomly talk to people.
Well, the prequel Strike Back one came through pretty clean, though. That one wasn't down here. Exception to the rule.
No, because we brought all this equipment.
But still, he said once we take it out of the basement.
That's semantics.
Okay.
You know what he meant.
Yeah, do we need to revisit the Rogue Friday special?
We can. Start talking. Go ahead, just start talking.
About... Well, actually... I was actually...
There, that's the episode.
Well, I was actually live on remote from Jeddah City.
You were in the middle of a city getting destroyed by the Death Star.
Right.
And you managed to make it out alive.
I was in Saw's stronghold, hanging out with Pork Gullet.
Yeah.
And it still turned out better than our episode 1 commentary.
Oh man, that was doomed from the beginning.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
The greatest and worst idea we've had all in one in the past year.
We are going to do those commentaries, but we're going to have to revisit how, like, who we allow in, and
the mass amounts of alcohol and the fact that we had 8 people down here was probably the beginning of the end of that one.
We were trying to keep it together, and then less than 2 minutes in, I love your brother, but less than 2 minutes in, he busts out with this unbelievably off-color joke. I was like, well, there goes this.
Yep.
we're still in him, with all due respect, the chancellors to the ambassadors to the chancellor like to talk now. Well, we're done.
Yep.
The off-color joke happened right about there, and we're like, all right, well, there goes this idea. Let's just do the power hour.
The Space Shuttle Challenger worked better than our episode 1 commentary.
Yeah, it did.
It lasted longer.
Yeah. We should make a joke like that, but it is true. Oh my God. But no, we definitely had a hell of a year. So, I think what I take away from it most is that we can actually keep doing this.
Yes.
And so I was always...
It is getting easier by the week, honestly. Yeah. I mean, now that, my son's sleeping a little longer, I'm not falling asleep at the microphone as much.
Right.
That's a help.
You say that, yet we came back on our last episode and said, sorry, we missed a week. We'll be back on schedule now. And then what happened? The next show completely farted out. So,
well, that wasn't our
fault. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We're still not on smooth sailing just yet.
Oh,
that's the computer's fault, not ours.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. I mean,
technology.
What did we do tonight? We recorded, listened back to make sure it was okay, and then away we go.
And we have a backup of a reel-to-reel system over here now that we can.
Yeah, we're recording the analog tape.
Yeah, if mistakes are just learning opportunities, then we should be friggin' geniuses by now. Because
Right.
it seems like every new thing we've tried has definitely failed in spectacular fashion the first time around.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, let's use the Spreaker Live app to go record at Toys R Us. Nope, no good on that.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's do a live commentary like you were saying with the boom mics and stuff. Nope, no good on that. Let's use a new computer that I just bought specifically so I wasn't using my work issued laptop for the show. Nope, that got eaten up too. So
The commentary was
and let's not talk about Facebook Live. Okay.
Yeah. The commentary was such a good idea. We had boom mics, we had ambient noise and stuff. Like we had room mics. We were going to get everything, and it was perfect until we pressed play.
Yeah. We're like, this is working great. And then the movie came on and all hell broke loose.
Sounds amazing. Thumbs up all around the room, and then and downhill from there.
It's been a year full of fart noises.
I know. We always derail ourselves with fart jokes.
Is that what we're going to do? We get brought in, not the fart noises, but we get.
We're going to get on the celebration stage and just do a bunch of fart noises. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody.
You believe your ass that right when they say we could go on the stage at Celebration, it's going on the mics.
You know what we need to do? I need to teach you guys to harmonize it. So it'll be like... We'll each hit a note, and then once we're all in the harmony, it'll go...
and fade.
Yeah, let's try it. Yay!
We didn't have the lowest note, but that's okay. We were close to being on pitch. That was the least enthralling but funniest segment we may have ever done.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Hey, Celebration. I bet you don't have any other podcast trying to make harmonized farts. That's why you pick us, doggone it. We're thumping the table to get on Celebration.
Hey, poodoo jokes are a proud tradition in Star Wars.
This is true. We just harmonized poodoo. That would be our Star Wars band name. Harmonized Poodoo. There you go. We could open for Galactic Empire. and on that note, I believe we can close up shop for the evening. So, anyways, everybody, thanks for your patience with our failed episode last week. We appreciate you guys waiting a week. I assume this is going out this week's, AJ?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
As soon as we can.
Yeah, so thank you, everybody, for... waiting a week for our next episode if you're tuning in. We want to thank Chris from Galactic Empire for coming on, Dark Vader. Please go check out their album on Rise Records out on February 3rd, so go check them out on Facebook to find all their information. Definitely appreciate him making time for us. You can find us at all of the usual places. Nerfherder Council.com. We've got our Facebook, we've got our Instagram, we've got our Twitter at NHC Podcast. Please do not forget that we do have t-shirts on sale for $20. You can email the show. What is it, AJ? Is it feedback at nerfherdercouncil.com? Mm-hmm. Yeah, feedback at nerfherdercouncil.com if you'd like to order a t-shirt from us. You can find pictures of those on all of our social media pages to see what they look like. You can also leave us a voicemail to order a shirt or to leave us a message or to harmonize your own fart noise at 440-987-WARS. We are available on Spreaker, which is our main outlet. We are available on iTunes, Google Play, Ear Peeler. So, I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He's AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
He's Steve.
At JSteve1005.
And we'll catch you next time.
I hope I slept with you to get the job, because if not,